Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Soul Land 2 Peerless Tang Men based on novel. So let's start. In everyone's eyes, while Bei Bei might be a Soul Emperor, he did not seem to be as powerful as Wang Chua. Hence, why would he suddenly use a tactic similar to Shrek's? By sending the captain up first, it would be a massive blow to the entire team if the captain were to lose. However, Bei Bei had already gone up. This was a reality no one could change. The two contenders walked simultaneously to the center of the arena, and soon stood before the unbreakable Doluo. Jingzhon looked at the two of them and said in a low voice, "Please state your names." Tang sect, Bei Bei. Holy Ghost sect, Ji Li. Ji Li. This name is auspicious indeed. Too bad he's an evil soul master. The protective barrier around the arena started to rise. The match was about to start. Both sides, to your places. Bei Bei looked deep into his opponent's eyes. Ji Li, who had a short stature, had a pair of dark eyes. His pupils were a weird inky green, and fluctuated continuously. He looked like a venomous snake stalking its prey. His opponent's dark and menacing aura did not affect Bei Bei. At this moment, Bei Bei brimmed with a powerful aura. The two sides turned and walked off. Bei Bei soon arrived at his end of the arena. Ji Li reached his end of the arena at the same time. The two sides stared at each other. The unbreakable Doluo Jingzhon looked at the main podium, then at the sky. Finally, he raised his right arm high into the air. Begin. With his bellow, the second semi-final round started. Bei Bei's fighting style was vastly different than before. With Jingzhon's announcement, he roared loudly and fiercely, to the point where the world was drowned out. His body grew in size, and purplish-blue dragon scales soon appeared and covered his entire body. If Bei Bei had not fought in the first round, the crowd would not have found it so obvious. However, the morning round had already let them witness a showdown between a golden dragon and a blue lighting tyrant dragon. When Bei Bei released his martial soul, the crowd instantly thought, even this soul master from the Tang sect has a dragon martial soul, and it resembles Yu Qianlong's blue lightning tyrant dragon almost perfectly. How could they not be surprised? Bei Bei only fought in the group component of the quarterfinal round. His performance was average, and nowhere as exciting as Shusanshi's. However, the heavenly dragon sect noticed his martial soul, especially its mutation. Blue lightning tyrant dragon. Yu Qianlong's eyes narrowed into slits. This meant that the two of them might be related by blood. In the quarterfinal round, his scales seemed to have turned golden, but it was a different shade of gold than Wang Chua. The golden light from Bei Bei's body looked paler than Wang Chua's, but it was even more glaring. Too bad the protective soul barrier was there, which prevented him from finding out what type of martial soul Bei Bei possessed. Due to his martial soul being the blue lightning tyrant dragon, Yu Qianlong was able to better understand such martial souls. He knew that among the many variants of the blue lightning tyrant dragon martial soul, his pure one might not be the strongest. 10,000 years ago, his ancestor Yu Xiaogang's martial soul had already started to mutate. Its power became weaker, but when he combined forces with his allies to form the Golden Triangle, he could summon the powerful Golden Dragon. Bei Bei's mutant blue lightning tyrant dragon martial soul was pale gold, and he came from Shrek Academy. Does this mean he's descended from Yu Xiaogang? With this thought in mind, Yu Qianlong looked at Bei Bei more favorably than before. Furthermore, Bei Bei's opponent was an evil soul master. As an orthodox soul master, he had no reason to support the evil soul master. Hence, he cheered for his close blood relative from the Tang sect silently. At this moment, another group of people finally entered the resting area. Yu Qianlong was stunned. Wang Chua had finally come. She had brought the team from Shrek Academy, too. She appeared to be slightly flustered, but fortunately, she did not miss the competition. Wang Chua sat in the front. When she noticed that the first to go up was Bei Bei, she appeared to sigh in relief. Then, she stood up and beckoned Dai Huabin over as she whispered something to him. A look of confusion crossed Dai Huabin's face, but he quickly nodded and replaced her. He then took over her spot. The other members of the team from Shrek all moved one seat forward and finally, the last seat emptied out. Wang Chua then sat down in the last seat. She closed her eyes and appeared to be meditating. What is she doing? Yu Qianlong looked curiously at Wang Chua. As the captain, why is she sitting all the way in the back? Could it be that the injuries I inflicted on her this morning are too severe, and she needs to focus on recuperating? That's impossible. In my state, even though my injuries were worse than hers, it didn't stop me from watching this match. With her golden dragon martial soul, she should have recovered completely by now. What's she doing? He did not understand Wang Qiu's actions at all. However, Yu Qianlong did not let Wang Qiu occupy his attention. The competition in the arena had finally started. Bei Bei roared, and 2 yellow, 2 purple, and 2 black soul rings started to rise. The dazzling scales of the blue lightning tyrant dragon soon covered his entire body. Even his arms looked thicker and stronger. A layer of blue light shone over his hair. He propelled himself toward his opponent at blazing speed. Ji Li charged forward too. His entire body appeared weightless, as he floated toward the center of the arena. Neither side was moving very quickly. At the very least, they were not as fast as Wang Qiu. However, in 2 breaths, they still reached the center of the arena. Bei Bei lifted his hand and he slashed at his opponent with his thunderous dragon claw. The aura of his thunderous dragon claw was not as eye-catching as Yu Qianlong's. A closer look would reveal that the size of Bei Bei's thunderous dragon claw was smaller than Yu Qianlong's. Fewer sparks of electricity circled it too. For soul skills, size never correlated with absolute power. Most of the time, size and power exhibited an inverse relationship. When Yu Qianlong saw this attack, a look of shock crossed his face. In terms of control over electricity, Bei Bei wasn't any weaker than him. Ji Li from the Holy Ghost sect reacted in a very curious way. Faced with the powerful thunderous dragon claw, his body contracted, and then an ominous, light blue gas poured from his body. Following that, his small body started to expand. His black top soon split open, and an odd scene occurred. After expanding, Ji Li's first and third soul rings started to shine with light. A layer of blue-gray scales covered his upper body, and he suddenly seemed immensely strong. His lower limbs became shorter, and muscles wrapped around his lower torso. His head became triangular in shape, and his lips protruded to reveal a mouthful of fangs. As his head changed shape, no one could tell what his original form was. His face, now covered with scales, looked extremely evil. His eyes glowed with a terrifying light. His arms became exceptionally thick, and by crossing them in front of him, he was able to block Bei Bei's thunderous dragon claw. Following that, his left leg stepped out, and one could see that it had grown in size too. Likewise, it was covered with dense, grey scales. When his leg touched the ground, one could hear a loud boom, and a powerful wave of energy rushed toward Bei Bei. This wave of energy was also greyish-blue, and it had a bloodthirsty feel to it. After it appeared, it took the shape of a huge mouth that resembled some kind of beast. Bei Bei remained fearless. A layer of white light shone from his body to form a light barrier. When the energy wave hit the barrier, it dissipated quickly. Class 6 Protective Soul Barrier. The Tang sect not only had martial souls, but also soul tools. When he saw the protective soul barrier Bei Bei suddenly unleashed, Ji Li was stunned. At this moment, Bei Bei was already in front of him. He reached out with his right arm, which instantly increased in length. The sharp claws of the blue lightning tyrant dragon slashed down on Ji Li's head. At that moment, electric light pulsated, and the thunderous dragon claws struck first. Behind those claws were the Bei Bei's actual dragon claws. Ji Li didn't even try to dodge. He reached out with a pair of sharp claws too. First, he shattered the thunderous dragon claws, and then he reached for Bei Bei's actual claws. Not only that, but Ji Li's small eyes shone with an icy-cold light. His protruding lips and fangs reached forward, and a purplish-black tongue that resembled an arrow flew toward the center of Bei Bei's forehead. Attacking with his tongue, this soul master was weird indeed. So far, in this tournament, no one had seen this before. However, one had to admit that it was too sudden. Bei Bei subconsciously raised his left hand to block it. His Class 6 protective soul barrier was still activated, but the purplish-black tongue pierced through it. Then, the tongue touched Bei Bei's dragon claws. There was an explosion, and Bei Bei stumbled backward. His right claw did not manage to make contact with his opponent. With his tongue alone, Ji Li was able to make a blue lightning tyrant dragon retreat. What kind of power was this? Furthermore, smoke started to appear from Bei Bei's left palm. Bei Bei reacted instantly. Lightning danced on his right hand, and he swiped at it with his sharp claws, cutting the scales in the center of his palm off immediately. Only that way could he avoid the corrosive effect of the poison there. The hardest part about defeating evil soul masters was that no one understood them very well. Their battling methods and styles were often impossible to predict and imagine. With that one touch, Bei Bei was at a disadvantage. Fortunately, he had the powerful defenses of his blue lightning tyrant dragon. If not, he may have had to cut off his own hand. In the waiting zone, Xiao Xiao suddenly exclaimed in shock, "I know. Brain Eater. His martial soul is a Brain Eater." Everyone looked at her. Xiao Xiao then said in a low voice, "I heard teacher talking about a terrifying soul beast that lives in the south of the continent. It's called the Brain Eater. It subsists off the brain juices of all living organisms, and is extremely cruel and bloodthirsty. Once a Brain Eater appears, it will cause panic in the local region. With just 1 or 2 Brain Eaters around, an entire town will become a dead zone. Both humans and beasts will be found with a small hole in their forehead, with all their brain juices sucked cleanly out from that hole. Teacher said that the Brain Eater is an extremely horrible soul beast. Once it's discovered, the local soul masters will do their best to hunt it down. The Star Luo Empire even has a task force dedicated to killing them. Hence, this soul beast is almost extinct. I never expected to see a human with this martial soul. No one had seen a Brain Eater before. Just like Xiao Xiao had said, it was almost extinct. No one had expected it to appear as a martial soul. Huo Yuhao quickly asked, "What are its abilities? What are its weaknesses?" Xiao Xiao's teacher was Elder Xian's disciple. Elder Xian had seen many things, and naturally understood the Brain Eater well. Xiao Xiao said, "The Brain Eater is very strong, particularly its straw-like tongue. When it attacks, it is extremely powerful. Normally, they use their tongue to feed on the brains of its prey. Other than strength, the Brain Eater moves very quickly, too. Its defenses are extraordinary, and its only weakness is that it can't attack from range. Hence, to hunt a Brain Eater, one has to attack and suppress it from afar before finally killing it." When he heard this piece of information, Huo Yuhao nodded. A golden light shone in his eyes, but they quickly returned to normal. On the arena, Bei Bei was forced back by Ji Li's tongue. However, Ji Li had no intention of letting him go. He stomped down on the ground and bounced up. A pair of giant claws slashed at Bei Bei's head. At the same time, his thin, sharp, and powerful tongue shot out toward Bei Bei's face once more. In the face of his opponent's strong attacks, Bei Bei remained extremely calm. The third soul ring on his body shone, and the strands of lightning around his body became denser. A powerful bluish-purple light shone brightly. As Bei Bei retreated, his body started to flash in and out of sight rapidly. It was not terribly fast, but in that instant, it appeared extremely mysterious. This was a Tang sect secret technique, the ghost shadow perplexing track. Ji Li's tongue brushed past Bei Bei's head by inches. At that moment, Bei Bei was already next to him. A pair of dragon claws grabbed his left arm. In terms of power, how could a blue lightning tyrant dragon be weaker than a Brain Eater? Ji Li was surprised by Bei Bei's sudden evasion. He shrieked in a high-pitched voice. His body turned in mid-air, and his arms, which were like 2 hammers, smashed in Bei Bei's direction. 2 deafening thuds were heard. Bei Bei retreated by 3 steps. However, his dragon claws had already left 10 white scars on Ji Li's right arm. He was even able to tear off some of his scales. Furthermore, strengthened by his third soul skill, Thunderous Fury, it was impossible for Ji Li to completely block Bei Bei's lightning. Electric light shone on his right arm, and he lost all feeling in it. However, before Bei Bei could continue his attack, Ji Li swung his tongue around and lashed out with it once more. The speed and strength of his tongue were too powerful. Its penetrative ability was extremely strong. Bei Bei's arm still throbbed with pain from the contact just now. No matter how powerful Bei Bei's dragon scales were, he did not wish to be pierced by the tongue. Earlier, he was only able to block it with a Class 6 protective soul barrier and his arm. It could be said that Ji Li's tongue was his most powerful killing tool. No matter how the battle went, as long as one was pierced by his tongue, it was over, and the victim might even die. At such a short range, the radius of Ji Li's attack was extremely large. Even if Bei Bei wanted to dodge, it was too late. At this moment, Bei Bei made a strange movement. Faced with the sharp tongue, he did not dodge or try to resist. Instead, he clasped his hands in front of him, as if he were praying. In that instant, countless sparks of electricity, all densely packed together, appeared. They resembled a tiny forest of lightning. Is this vigorous thunderbolt? Huo Yuhao said in disbelief. If not for the second soul ring that shone from Bei Bei's body, he would not dare to say this. Vigorous thunderbolt was originally meant to be deployed around the user. It would then turn into a web of electricity that could attack its opponent like a domain-type soul skill. However, Bei Bei had reduced it to an incredibly small size between his palms. One could only imagine the amount of control required. Ji Li's tongue pierced through the dense forest of lightning and thunder with ease. It seemed that the sharp tongue would easily reach Bei Bei. At that moment, everyone from the Tang sect stood up. As they knew about the terrifying nature of the Brain Eater, they were even more fearful. Over on the Holy Ghost sect side, Tang Ya, who sat at the front, grabbed the armrests of her seat with her hands. Immediately, the armrests were crushed into powder. The scorpion tiger Doluor's eyes narrowed, and a severe expression crossed them. However, he did nothing. His attention was centered on Ji Li. Oddly, the person at the center of it all, Bei Bei, looked extraordinarily calm. His eyes were still as he looked at the purplish-red, triangular-shaped tongue approached him. He had no intention of dodging it. Stop. Ji Li's tongue finally stopped in the end, only 2 inches away from Bei Bei. His dark red tongue dripped with a clear liquid. A bloody odor permeated the surroundings. Lightning and thunder twisted and turned around his tongue, expanding in size. Ji Li wanted to pierce forward with his tongue, which was indeed moving forward slowly. However, compared to his speed before, it was way too slow. The two sides were at a stalemate. The Tang sect, who were all standing except for Huo Yuhao, sighed in relief. Wang Donga thumped her chest and said, "Elder brother scared all of us." Shu Sancha said, "He did it deliberately. With Bei Bei's personality, he would never do something that is not confident of. That guy is screwed. Look at him, in terms of application and usage of soul skills, Bei Bei surpasses even me. At first, we weren't that far apart in terms of strength. However, ever since he obtained his 5th soul skill, the difference became more and more obvious. Even after I got my Xuanwu's domain, all I can do is to defend myself against him. Bei Bei is devious and sly. He wouldn't go up first if he wasn't confident in himself. The one who understood Bei Bei's fighting abilities was naturally the one who had known him the longest, and the one who sparred with him the most often, Shu Sancha. At first, Huo Yuhao had known his elder brother very well. However, he had left Shrek Academy for 2.5 years. When he came back, so many things had happened that he had not had much time to truly interact with him. When he heard Shu Sanchi's words, Huo Yuhao was relieved. While Shu Sancha might appear unreliable at times, at crucial moments like this, he would not comfort everyone without solid reasons. As Shrek's 7 monsters talked, there were new developments surrounding the stalemate on the arena. 2 inches, 1.5 inches, 1 inch. The odorous tongue was approaching Bei Bei slowly. Everyone knew that if he were touched by that tongue, it would be a catastrophe for Bei Bei. However, in this stalemate, Bei Bei's body started to change too. A low dragon roar sounded, which slowly became louder and louder. The bluish-purple electricity around him became brighter and brighter, and soon, it had turned golden. The thick armor-like scales on him became transparent, and his body now seemed to be covered by a layer of golden crystals. An intense aura of light started to rise, and the dense forest of electricity in the palms of his hands gradually turned from bluish-purple to gold. As electric light flashed and electricity twisted and turned, the progress of the tongue became slower and slower. Ji Li's thick body was exerting all its strength. He planted his legs firmly on the ground, and his 1st and 3rd soul rings began to shine brightly with light. Even his 2nd soul ring started to shine. His first 3 soul rings increased his power. Hence, this allowed the physical attributes of his body to converge with that of a brain eater. He now possessed the strength and speed of a brain eater. In fact, he had been able to use the innate ability of a brain eater when he received his 1st soul skill, allowing his head to transform into the shape of a brain eater. As for his remaining 4 soul skills, it was not that he did not want to use them. Instead, in this condition, he could not use them. That was right, his tongue was his strongest offensive ability. Many times, however, his strongest ability was also his weakest. Evil soul masters had 2 traits. First of all, their fighting styles were not widely accepted by the general populace. Secondly, their cultivation could increase rapidly. Ji Li, with his brain eater martial soul, was able to rapidly increase his own strength by devouring his enemies' brains, regardless of whether they were humans or soul beasts. The stronger his victims, the faster his cultivation would increase. When his martial soul first awoke, even he himself did not think that he could become a soul master, as he continued to live aimlessly. When he was 12 years old, he was discovered by the Holy Ghost Church, and finally started his training. In just 8 years, he was able to progress from a clueless teen, with just rank 2 soul power, to a rank 60 evil soul emperor. This increase would be impossible for ordinary soul masters. Furthermore, as his cultivation increased ceaselessly with each brain he devoured, his mental state and personality started to distort as well. This was a common occurrence among most evil soul masters. However, the reason he could devour brains was because of his tongue. His tongue, likewise, was the most important and most powerful aspect of his brain-eater martial soul. Once his tongue was hurt, he would be severely weakened. Hence, Ji Li could only withdraw his tongue to use a more powerful soul skill, or use his tongue to kill Bei Bei. With his twisted personality, faced with a soul emperor and the possibility of eating his brain, how could he choose the latter? A twisted mentality was a common weakness among evil soul masters. The golden electric light grew stronger and stronger. As he looked at the approaching tongue, a cold look crossed Bei Bei's face. His clasped dragon claws started to shine. A bright gold light instantly fused with the lightning between his palms, turning it into a golden electric ball of light. With a cry of pain, Ji Li finally realized that something was amiss, and he no longer dared to pierce forward. Instead, he tried to withdraw his tongue with all his might. However, at this moment, it was way too late. One had to admit that his tongue was strong. Even after it had been zapped by electricity, it was still not destroyed. However, this was not Bei Bei's attack. The real reason why he had controlled his opponent was so that he could complete his transformation from Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon to Radiant Holy Dragon. A terrifying electric light instantly expanded. Bei Bei's body trembled. He gripped tightly with his left dragon claw, as he controlled the ball of golden light that was pulling on Ji Li's tongue. He then raised his right hand. Bei Bei's 5th soul ring started to shine brightly. The jet black soul ring appeared to have turned golden. Following that, Bei Bei's right dragon claw regained its human shape. However, it was completely covered with golden scales. Then, the shadow of a huge radiant holy dragon appeared behind him. His right hand instantly transformed into golden crystal. His scales became blurred, and a loud dragon roar started to sound from Bei Bei's mouth. His palm came smashing down on Ji Li's tongue. Crack! A thunderous boom sounded. Earlier, none of his attacks could injure his opponent. Now, with this palm, a weird scene appeared. It was as if a ball of wild thunder had been unleashed from his palm. With a cry of agony, Ji Li's tongue was covered with golden electric light. Bei Bei pulled forcefully with his left hand, and Ji Li's body tumbled forward uncontrollably. His eyes betrayed a look of shock, and the bluish-gray scales on his body started to crackle with golden electric light as well. Bei Bei's kicked forward, and in the blink of an eye, he was already in front of Ji Li. He reached out with his hands and launched 3 palm strikes at Ji Li. The palm strikes landed on his shoulders and chest. Ji Li was dumbfounded. His tongue remained stiffly straight, and his entire body shivered. When Bei Bei's 4th palm strike hit his chest, his entire body was already covered with golden electric lightning bolts as thick as an arm. All the scales on his body opened up. On the main podium, the mysterious imperial tutor, who sat next to the Prince Regent, Crown Prince Shu Qianran, lifted his right hand and smashed down on the armrest of his chair. Not a single sound could be heard, but the armrest of the chair disappeared. Dragon God Doluo Mu Ien's Dragon Emperor, Demonic Rupture, was actually passed down. Dragon Emperor Demonic Rupture. To Shu Qianran, this was an extremely foreign name. However, it was enough to shock and infuriate the imperial tutor. Evidently, it was quite a powerful soul skill. After 4 palm strikes, Bei Bei slowly straightened. He did not continue his attack, but instead retreated. He raised his hands and the golden light around him faded away. He retracted his martial soul and soul power as he stood there in the arena. Jing Zhon, the referee, was stunned. While Bei Bei had landed 4 direct hits on his opponent should have been able to endure those 4 strikes with his defensive prowess. While these 4 palm strikes had appeared intimidating, causing Ji Li's body to shake with each strike, and a vast amount of electric light was released, he could not have lost just like that. After all, he was an evil soul master. However, Bei Bei's actions proved that the match was indeed over. This was because he had already taken out a milk bottle, and was silently replenishing his soul power. His eyes were closed as he stood in the center of the arena. In the audience, a tall figure standing silently close to the arena slowly said, "Perfect. Perfect." Next to him, a stunningly beautiful young woman asked in surprise, "Aotian, in your eyes, is this perfect?" That was right. The tall figure was the most powerful soul master among the younger generation of disciples in the body sect, Long Aotian. The woman next to him was naturally Princess Wei Na. Long Aotian nodded with a dark expression. It's no shame to lose to the Tang sect. Bei Bei concealed his power well. His fifth soul skill is truly powerful indeed. Wei Na was confused. It doesn't seem to be much. Long Aotian looked at her from the corner of his eyes, sighed, and said, "That's because you are not yet at that level. Hence, you think it's ordinary." Just now, his spiritual power, soul skill, and strategy all combined into one perfectly. That is why such a perfect attack formed. While it seemed to have just been 4 palm strikes, each of his palms shook me to the core. That day, when we were competing, if he had used this attack, even I would not expect to win. I would have had to use my martial soul true body to win, and even so, I would have been severely injured. Furthermore, I still do not know what his 6th soul skill is. Shrek Academy lives up to its name indeed. Shrek's 7 monsters have all concealed their power well. Bei Bei is even more terrifying than Shu Sanxia. A look of shock appeared on Wei Na's face. She trusted Long Aotian completely, and she also knew that he was incredibly proud. When even he respected Bei Bei this much. Wei Na chuckled bitterly and said, "I feel that we've underestimated the Tang sect. Before we leave Radiant City, we must find a chance to better our ties with them." Long Aotian nodded and grunted in agreement. In the arena, Ji Li trembled violently, swaying around as if he were drunk. Finally, his legs went soft as he fell to his knees. Following that, his entire body started to tremble. The scales on his body started to drop off piece by piece. He mumbled, "Phew, phew," but he could not string a sentence together. Rays of golden light started to seep out from his body. Gradually, the golden light solidified, and then started to spread in all directions. The odorous smell from his body faded away, and was replaced by a clear scent of something that had just been bathed by powerful sunlight. Boom. Ji Li's body exploded into countless tiny pieces. Weirdly, no blood spurted out from his body, and no flesh flew from it. His body burst open, and then turned into ashes underneath the golden light. The intense golden light remained where it was and then turned into a miniature version of the golden holy dragon. It lasted only a few seconds before disappearing. The audience was stunned into silence by this. The scene was way too shocking. No one could have imagined it. What soul skill is this? Why is it so powerful? The battle did not last very long. At first, Bei Bei had appeared to be at a disadvantage. The evil soul master, Ji Li, was unpredictable and powerful. In particular, his tongue and his powerful defenses seemed to have forced Bei Bei into a corner. However, the end of this battle came so quickly. The 4 thunderous booms seemed capable of blowing everyone's hearts up. A Soul Emperor-level evil soul master died in battle, just like that. The Tang sect's waiting zone. Huo Yuhao sat there as he looked dumbly at Bei Bei. He mumbled to himself, This is Teacher's Dragon Emperor demonic Rupture. Elder brother is able to use this soul skill. No wonder he did not want to use his 5th soul skill when he sparred against us. It's actually the Dragon Emperor demonic Rupture. With Sovereign's Descent as its foundation, and with the Golden Holy Dragon martial soul as its source, it's able to destroy everything. Furthermore, it will evolve as one's cultivation improves. It's a powerful soul skill representative of a true title Doluo, or even a transcendent Doluo, or even an ultimate Doluo. Even though Huo Yuhao was a direct disciple of Mu Yen, he'd only inherited Sovereign's Descent, the dragon god Doluo's many experiences, and his research into martial souls. After all, his martial soul was unlike his teacher's. There was no way for him to emulate his teacher's power. However, Bei Bei could do so. Bei Bei was able to evolve his blue lightning tyrant dragon martial soul into a radiant holy dragon. Mu Yen's newly researched ability tapped into the power of the radiant holy dragon as its blueprint, and so Bei Bei could emulate it. As Mu Yen's disciple, Bei Bei had trained with him since he was a child. While Huo Yuhao had inherited his experience, knowledge, and fighting style, which had helped him expand his knowledge, make more discoveries of his own, and ultimately find his own path, Bei Bei followed Mu Yan's path, and had inherited the dragon god Doluo's essence. Was the golden dragon girl, Wang Qiu'er, the most powerful soul master with a dragon martial soul in this tournament? This thought was suddenly in the minds of everyone spectating this match. The Tang sect versus the Holy Ghost sect, individual elimination round 1. Tang sect, victory. Ji Li, a member of the Holy Ghost sect, dead. This video will end here.